Good evening, everyone. Mike Palmer from Know Your Rights Group and Success Coaching International with another important live video update. So the big news of this week has, of course, been the release of the COVID inquiry report that Sky News seems to be all over, but not surprisingly, has barely been mentioned in any other mainstream media reports. Gee, I wonder why. Now, Sky News have released a number of articles which all essentially say the same thing, that basically the government's complete overreaction to COVID and the imposition of all of the insane mandates simply wasn't warranted. Now, none of this is in any way earth-shattering, I'm sure, to anyone who's been following us and watching these video updates for the past 4 years. But firstly, it is, of course, nice to see that everything that we've said all along is now, of course, been proven to be true by these so-called independent investigations. And secondly, hopefully, it is crystal clear proof to anyone who might be new to our group and maybe to our videos that we do indeed know what we're talking about. So the first article that I want to cover essentially states that the government's reaction to COVID was what actually caused far more damage than COVID itself. So I urge everyone to grab these articles and make sure they do read them for themselves. This is the first one, entitled "Government's Actions Are the Main Thing That Caused Damage. Economic Expert Reveals Cracks in COVID Report." A leading economist has weighed in on the bombshell COVID report, claiming it does little to highlight the inadequacies of the state and federal government's response to the pandemic. A bombshell report investigating Australia's handling of COVID has been heavily criticised for failing to draw lessons from the state and federal government's disastrous response to the pandemic. Health Minister Mark Butler and Treasurer Jim Chalmers released the final report of the government's inquiry into the pandemic response on Tuesday. The federal review commissioned by the Albanese government handed down 26 recommendations on how to improve the way in which Australia handles health crises. The 877-page report highlighted the public's lack of trust in government decisions, and another lockdown or any other form of harsh restrictions are unlikely to be tolerated again. Praise the Lord for small mercies. People are waking up. Trust has also been eroded, and many of the measures taken during COVID-19 are unlikely to be accepted by the population again, the review said. Further noted that while the government could legitimately restrict certain human rights, some of the responses to the pandemic were poorly justified, disproportionate to the risk, and inconsistency applied across the country. The very things that we used to say on each of our radio shows each week during that period. During an interview with Sky News host Chris Kenny, economics professor at the University of New South Wales, Gigi Foster, said, "We've learnt that basically the lessons that should have been drawn from Australia's disastrous COVID response have not been learned. Lockdowns and associated policies also had significant effects on the economy through disruption of business and normal working life," according to Ms. Foster, who also argues some individuals have been unable to restart their economic lives after the lockdowns. Her submission also leaned into the enormous government expenditures during the COVID period, which were financed with debt and are now being paid with money which could have otherwise been spent on other life-saving resources. Again, a huge issue. Speaking at a press conference on Tuesday, Treasurer Jim Chalmers said the economic management of the coalition government during the pandemic was full of costly mistakes that were also inflationary. Pointing out the coalition's rollout of JobSeeker, Mr. Chalmers said it resulted in billions and billions of dollars being wasted. Billions and billions. So finally, people are admitting that many of the government's initiatives were a complete waste of money. But now, because of the government's incompetence, we, the people, are made to suffer yet again, like we didn't suffer badly enough during COVID, because now we've got to pay for their mistakes. I mean, how about this? How about we all write to our members of parliament and demand that the relevant people be sacked immediately, the people in charge of making those decisions, and their pensions and superannuation funds be seized and put into paying for their actual decisions. That way, it might make the next lot of Muppets that come through think a little more carefully before simply choosing to go along with their puppeteers' agendas. Just a thought. Now, speaking of puppets, we all know, all too well, that Victorians suffered the worst out of all of the states, and that was primarily at the hands of the so-called Chief Health Officer, I put that in inverted commas for a reason, of course, Brett Sutton, who now, of course, that he's been, handsomely paid for towing the government line for all those years, is finally admitting, after the fact, of course, that he didn't fully disclose all of the relevant information to the Victorian public that he should have. I mean, gee, who would have thought? So here's the article and here's his actual admissions. Again, print these articles and keep them all, keep a copy of them somewhere in case they try and bring this insanity in again. Former Victorian Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton admits to failings in explaining pandemic advice amid release of COVID inquiry report. Victoria's former Chief Health Officer made a frank admission about the information which was provided to residents during the pandemic. Former Victorian Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton has acknowledged he did not always adequately explain key health messages to residents during the pandemic, but said he always tried to communicate the advice as best as he could. Oh, well, you did the best you could, mate, so nothing to worry about. People lost their businesses, people lost loved ones, people missed out on funerals, people missed out on marriages, but hey, you did the best you could, so, you just sleep well at night with your great big pay packet. Unbelievable. Professor Sutton was interviewed on ABC Radio Melbourne on Wednesday about Victoria's COVID response in the wake of a report explaining how Australia managed the pandemic. Host Raphael Epstein put it to Professor Sutton, who would appear alongside then Premier Daniel Andrews at daily COVID press conferences in 2020 and 2021, whether he believed he sometimes failed to explain the situation to Victorians. Of course I did, he says. And I think, with the best of intentions. Oh, well, again, you've got the best of intentions, so it's perfectly fine. I wanted to be able to speak to all of that nuance and complexity, but not all of it was given an opportunity. Not all of it was captured in a way I think I would have liked, he said. Professor Sutton, who finished up as Victoria's Chief Health Officer in July last year, was later asked whether he believed some of the evidence he had relied on ended up being wrong. What's his response? Evidence changes all the time, and I think sometimes it just wasn't there. Then what the hell were you doing if you're now admitting that the evidence wasn't even there to base the decisions that destroyed people's lives? This is insane. So, of course, sometimes you're making a best guess. And sometimes you're applying the precautionary principle, which means that you're being careful in the absence of really, really clear evidence to point you one way or another. He's just admitted that publicly on the record. This overpaid Muppet is admitting that he was guessing with people's lives and livelihoods, and he hasn't been lynched yet. The less I say, the better at this point, because otherwise I'm going to get myself in serious trouble. But I'm sure you guys can connect the dots. This is insane that these people come out and admit this, and just like good old Teflon Dan, seem to be able to walk away into another cushy job with CSIRO and nothing happens to them. No accountability. Okay? Then, wait, it gets even better, because then we have the infectious disease expert who's actually calling for an apology to try and rebuild the trust in the vaccines. Yeah, good luck with that, mate. This is what this Muppet is now asking for. Again, go and read this so you understand their mentality. Infectious disease expert Nick Coatsworth calls for apology for people who lost jobs due to vaccine mandates during COVID. Infectious disease expert and former Deputy Chief Medical Officer Nick Coatsworth has suggested health authorities in Australia should apologise to people who lost their jobs due to refusing vaccines as a first step to rebuilding public trust in immunisation programs. No, mate. How about they should issue an apology because it's damn well the right thing to do? Not because you've got some ulterior motive about rebuilding trust in vaccines. Do it because it's the right thing to do. Okay? This is what the Know Your Rights group is all about. Holding people to account, seeking justice for those who have been wronged unfairly. On Tuesday, the federal government released its COVID-19 response inquiry report, which explored both state and federal government's pandemic responses. Dr. Coatsworth also appeared on the Today Show and said he wanted to proactively rebuild public trust in the health system following the release of the government report. How about you start by just apologising blanket with no agenda and then take it from there step by step, mate? I was part of this apparatus who were pushing vaccine mandates and people were losing their jobs because they weren't taking the vaccine, he told the Today Show. That really did erode trust. You think? Thank you, Captain Obvious. How about you leave your job, you donate your entire year's pay, and then we might, consider trusting you again. Dr. Coatsworth said health experts and authorities should even apologise to the people who lost their jobs because of vaccine mandates. If we start by doing that, if more people than just me perhaps say that, then we can start the road to rebuilding trust amongst those people that no longer maybe even have trust in our childhood vaccination program. Gee, I wonder why. In the COVID response report, it was revealed focus groups had found many people had strong negative feelings about vaccine mandates, which correlated with a mistrust in government and medical science. Again, you think? I mean, seriously, this is some sort of surprise to them? In a community input survey conducted for the inquiry in 2024, 21% of respondents said they would not get a vaccine offered by the government in a future public health emergency. The report said in a segment on the growing loss of trust surrounding pandemic restrictions. I dare say it'd be a lot higher than 21%, but that's certainly a good start. People who were stranded overseas, not permitted to see dying loved ones, frustrated by changing restrictions and unable to access supports, expressed their resentment towards the distrust of government. Again, you think? I mean, this is not rocket science. I mean, honestly, what did these morons think would happen when they forced people to take these untested jabs or lose their jobs? I mean, history has shown us, that force can work in the short term, but it always generates resentment in the long term, and that resentment always overpowers that force in the end. So I certainly hope that people rise up, overthrow these government officials, hold them to account, and then appoint people who A, actually care, and B, are prepared to work with people to genuinely help them rather than just, force them to comply with their overlords' agendas, which is exactly what we saw happen during COVID. Now, thankfully, some people are starting to stand up and fight back, and they are trying to hold these governments to account, and not least of which is the hundreds of Queensland police officers who've actually launched a class action against the vaccine mandate. So this is fantastic to see. And this is the article. Obviously, I spoke on some recent videos about the court rulings that were made against healthcare workers who were unfairly dismissed because they chose not to take the jabs, and now the police officers are joining in as well. So this is entitled, Hundreds of Police Officers Launch Class Action Against Queensland Government and QPS over COVID-19 vaccine mandates. Hundreds of former and current police officers and staff members have launched a class action lawsuit against the state government and the Queensland Police Service over its COVID-19 vaccine mandates. The lawsuit, filed in the Supreme Court in Brisbane on Friday, is being funded by billionaire Clive Palmer. Good old Uncle Clive. Good on you, mate. It comes after the Queensland Supreme Court ruled that COVID-19 mandates breach the human rights laws of some frontline workers. I would suggest that it's a little more than some, the majority of. In his written decision in February, Justice Glenn Martin ruled the directives breached Section 58 of the Human Rights Act, which stated that all public service employees must give proper consideration to human rights before making a decision, and that they must act and make decisions that are compatible with human rights. However, Justice Martin did not find mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations were contrary to the HRA, but that the directions were issued unlawfully. Solicitor Justin Sibley, who is leading the class action, said that the COVID vaccine mandates were coercive and limited officers' human rights. What we're saying is that the coercive mandates were put in by the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Sibley said. So wishing all of those Queensland police officers the best of success with that class action, and we'll certainly be following along with that. Now, I've said this many times before, the truth is slowly but surely starting to come out. Just, of course, as we said it would over the last 4 years. And we certainly hope that those people, the majority of you hopefully watching this video, who stood their ground and refused to partake in this global medical experiment are now happier than ever with those choices. I've said it before, I'll say it again. No one regrets not taking the jab. It's just that simple. So hopefully as these stories keep coming out, those who stood their ground do feel a lot better about themselves. Now, speaking of taking jabs, when on earth is the government going to stop taking jabs at our hip pockets and hitting us with endless fines and tolls? One of our members actually sent us through an industry article during the week that details the fact that Aussies are now spending over $3 billion, that's it with a B, $3 billion a year to travel on the roads that we, the people, actually already own. Okay, this is how crazy it is. So I urge you, go and look this article up so you understand how much you're paying unnecessarily. Discover how much Aussies spend on toll roads yearly. Navigating the bustling streets and highways of Australia's major cities can come at a hefty price, with a report revealing that Australians are shelling out over $3 billion annually to travel on toll roads. This figure is not just a number on a page. It represents a significant financial burden for many motorists, particularly in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, where toll roads are a common feature of the urban landscape. The ABC Four Corners program conducted an extensive investigation into the costs associated with these toll roads, uncovering the financial strain they place on Australian drivers. The majority of these toll roads are owned by Transurban, a dominant player in the toll road industry. The financial year of 23-24 saw Transurban's revenue from Australian toll roads soar to $3.283 billion, a notable increase from the $2.437 billion recorded during the 21-22 period, which was impacted by lockdowns. Oh dear, poor them. The rise in revenue is indicative of the growing expense of using toll roads for everyday Australians. For those commuting in Sydney, the toll road costs can consume a substantial portion of their income. For example, a motorist travelling from Wollondilly to the CBD could spend up to 17% of their average income on tolls alone. 17% of your income just on tolls. I mean, this was unheard of, 10, 15 years ago. The situation is even more dire for commuters from the Sutherland Shire or Liverpool, with toll expenses reaching up to 20% of their average income for trips to Hornsby. Imagine paying 20% of your income, just throwing it away on tolls each and every year. On top of the, cost of living crisis, the housing crisis. I mean, how does anybody afford to live nowadays? The financial pressure of toll roads is set to intensify. It's only going to get worse, with costs expected to rise in line with the Consumer Price Index and inflation. Transurban is currently in discussion with the New South Wales government to reform the state's toll road network following an independent review. The outcome of these discussions could have significant implications for the future of toll road pricing and the financial impact on Australian motorists. Well, let's certainly hope that they do take action and do something about it. But in the meantime, a couple of key points on toll roads that all motorists should know. Firstly, in the majority of states, these tolling companies do not provide the details of the costs of using those particular sections of roads before you enter into them, i.e. car $3, truck $4, motorbike $2. They're supposed to have signs at the entrance to the toll roads that tell you what that trip is going to cost you, and most states do not actually do that. Therefore, any claimed contract is clearly invalid because there's no clear offer. You don't know what you're paying. Remember, The three key elements of a contract: offer, acceptance, and valuable consideration. They're not making an offer, so you can't possibly accept it. Okay? Now, there's no point in them telling you, oh, but you can look it up on an app. Well, you can't look it up on an app while you're driving because you're not allowed to use your phone. So they need to have those signs there. Secondly, the legislation regarding toll roads has all, of course, been enacted post 1973 and therefore, as we've said many times before, has no valid head of power. Now, here's the kicker, okay? Because I'm sure the fact checkers will come in and try and fact check this. Oh, we've discussed this, Mr. Palmer, nothing changed in 1973. Okay, well, if it did, if that was a valid head of power, then it would actually be in conflict with itself because, of course, all roads are actually Crown roads. They are part of the King's Highway. So can somebody please show me where the King authorised a private corporation such as Transurban or Linked to tax subjects of the Crown to use a road that they own or that he owns? It just doesn't make any sense, okay? Please again understand, okay? Transurban, Linked, these types of private corporations do not own the roads. They didn't build them, okay? The roads were built with government funds which came from our taxes. So we, the people, own those roads, okay? They were created in fee simple, okay? And these corporations were simply given the management and the upkeep rights, not the ownership, okay? These tolls were introduced purely to fund the upkeep of the roads, not to make these private corporations billions of dollars each year off the back of hard-working Australians. Okay, and the final point, which is very important for people to understand, is the courts absolutely hate these ridiculous toll fines. Okay, magistrates in particular despise being used as glorified debt collectors for these private companies, you know, under this guise of criminal or, you know, quasi-criminal laws. So please, if you challenge those tolls, okay, using that general three-step process, okay, it's the general three-step process that you want to use from Chapter 3 of that Aussie Speeding Fines book, you have every chance of having them all completely wiped, okay? You'll find links in the description if you don't have that already. Now, I've spoken a lot about fines on these recent video updates, and whilst I would love to say that, you know, they couldn't think of any other ways to fine drivers over and above what they've implemented over the past 12 or 18 months, sadly they keep coming up with new ones every week or so seemingly, and the latest, get this, bus lane fines. Yep. This is what they're rolling out now. It's starting in New South Wales, but rest assured it will come to other states as well. Drivers urged to comply or risk $410 fine as fresh set of road cameras officially switched on, because we don't have enough of them already. Sydney siders have been told the new cameras will begin operating in warning mode from Monday. A fresh set of road cameras monitoring bus lanes have been rolled out and switched on in a notoriously congested inner city suburb, the latest to be installed among dozens of others around the city. For the first month, warning letters will be issued to drivers caught using the bus lane illegally, allowing them to adjust, but soon fines will be handed down. A Transport for New South Wales spokesperson told Yahoo News Australia there are almost 50 bus cameras in place around the city. TFNSW operates a variety of bus priority enforcement system, BPES, to enhance efficient bus travel and prioritise public transport on our road network, spokesperson told Yahoo. These systems operate in 41 locations, including on bus lanes, bus-only lanes and T-ways. Duncan Lucas, Executive Director of Road Safety Regulation at Transport for New South Wales, said the cameras are designed to enhance the efficiency of public transport by enforcing bus lane rules and reducing delays. The new bus lane camera system will not only enforce compliance but also enhance safety for both passengers and motorists, contributing to a smoother flow of traffic, he said. General traffic cannot use the offset bus lane continuously, with exceptions for taxis, hire cars, bicycles, emergency vehicles, motorcycles and buses. So some people can, but just not, you know, the average punter. They're the ones that keep getting screwed over. Local traffic can enter the bus lane for up to 100 metres to access businesses along the route, he said. Who's out there with a tape measure measuring the 100 metres? I mean, who's able to calculate when you're doing 60 kilometres an hour? Oh, am I 100 metres? Am I 90 metres? Am I 110 metres? I mean, how ridiculous. Illegal use of bus lanes can incur a fine of $410 and 1 demerit point. Again, it's all about the money, all about raising revenue. So again, please, if you get one of those bus lane fines or any other fine for that matter, please refer to that 3-step process in Chapter 3 of that Aussie Speeding Fines book. It's just a simple cut and paste process. You copy and paste your details in. The letters are all written for you. Send them off and have them wiped off. All right, so the final topic that I want to just touch on quickly before we wind up is the absolute circus that is the lead up to the US elections next week. Now, where do you even begin with this week's insanity? I'm just going to show you a couple of basically headlines and some really short articles, and if you're interested, you can go and look it up further. But firstly, we kicked off with Kamala, however you want to pronounce it, trying to get one of her crowds at her rallies all fired up, but the attempt fell absolutely dead flat, and the audience actually went silent. That's how bad it was. So this is quite an entertaining article if you want to have a look at that and see how desperate they are. Excruciatingly awkward silence after Kamala gaffe, dying from embarrassment. Kamala Harris has been accused of delivering the single most awkward political rally moment in American history. Vice President Harris pulled the plug on the crowd's energy during a Michigan rally on Monday after a bizarre request that left her supporters in stunned silence. This is the single most awkward political rally moment in American history, conservative commentator Benny Johnson tweeted. Nothing else even comes close. I have died from second-hand embarrassment. So, I mean, they're just digging themselves a hole. But then it gets even worse, because while she was apparently attempting to, desperately unite Americans, her absolute bumbling buffoon of a boss, i.e. Sleepy Joe Biden, has come out and called Trump supporters garbage and completely undone all of her hard work. So again, go and have a look at what this Muppet has done now by just, he just should keep his mouth closed, really. US President Joe Biden slammed after calling Trump supporters garbage while responding to comedians' remarks. US President Joe Biden has been met with backlash after calling Donald Trump supporters garbage in shocking remarks just a week out from the pivotal election. Donald Trump has no character. He doesn't give a damn about the Latino community. Just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage, Biden said. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. I mean, give the man a shovel, give him a backhoe. I mean, just let him just dig that hole for himself as quickly as possible. And let's just get on with the show. Now, Trump, of course, being the master manipulator that he is, seizes this opportunity, turns out the very next day in a fluoro vest and a garbage truck to have a dig right back at Biden. So, again, he loves to take advantage of these situations, good old Trump, and he's done the perfect job here. Trump blasts Biden over garbage remark. Donald Trump has opened a rally in the battleground state of Wisconsin by declaring 250 million Americans are not garbage in response to a gaffe by President Joe Biden. Trump made his appearance on stage in the city of Green Bay on Wednesday sporting an orange workers' high-vis vest, a gesture in response to recent comments made by Biden referring to the Republican supporters as garbage. I have to begin by saying 250 million Americans are not garbage, Trump first told the rally, followed by an uproar in the crowd. And there he is in his lovely fluoro vest and his Trump garbage truck. And, mate, you got to give him credit. He certainly knows how to take advantage of these opportunities. But then here's the final thing. I mean, you just shake your head at the complete incompetence there, don't you? If all of that wasn't bad enough, some random guy in Florida is driving around and finds one of these pre-election ballot boxes full of filled out, completed ballots just lying in the middle of some random road. I mean, again, please read this so you understand we're not making this up. It is just an absolute joke over there. Ballot box found in middle of road days out from US election. Dashcam footage has captured the moment an election ballot box was discovered in the middle of a road days out from the US election. An election worker has been fired after a ballot box was discovered in the middle of the road in the US days out from the high-stakes election. Dashcam footage shared on Instagram shows the moment a sealed bright blue election box and sealed bag of ballots was spotted by a driver in Cutler Bay, Florida on Tuesday local time. In the footage, the driver can be seen stopping his car and retrieving the ballots from the middle of the road before taking them to a local police station. The box was clearly marked with a sticker reading official election materials along with a serial number. And again, there's the actual photo that you can clearly see the box in the middle of the road. And look, at least he's done the right thing and he's gone and handed them in to the police, and hopefully the police will pass it on to the relevant election officials. But I mean, seriously, watch this space. I mean, literally anything is possible between now and Tuesday. Nothing will surprise me personally. I wouldn't be at all surprised to hear of another assassination attempt, some other disturbance or delay to the election, or, you know, who knows what else. But I'm sure they're going to try something. So all I can say at this point in time is good luck to the American people. I think they're going to need it over the coming days. And of course, that is ultimately going to have obvious flow-on effects for us here in Australia. And that, of course, is something that we'll be discussing in the coming weeks once that all plays out. All right, so to finish off, as I always do, I'm going to go through some more memes to get people thinking. And before I get to that, a very important reminder, our IT guy has sent this to us again today. It's very hard to read. It is very small. But again, our site is being very seriously attacked. This particular one was blocked 175 attacks in 10 minutes. And our IT guy said he got 20 of those emails in an 8-minute period. So they are seriously trying to attack our website. They clearly don't like what we're saying. So if there's anything there on our website that you want to access, any of the podcasts, any of our products, anything like that, please, I urge you, get on there sooner rather than later. Obviously, we do have security measures in place. We do have backups and all the rest of it. But just in case, get onto our website and grab anything that you want to get in case anything happens. All right, now the other thing that, before I get to the actual memes, this is sent to us by one of our members. Now, this is very, very important for people to keep in mind regarding the digital ID. Now, this is what is going on in Kuwait. So, as member Paul has written in going, hi Mike, interesting article about Kuwait for those still considering signing up for the digital ID here in Oz. Armstrong Economics reports Kuwait has forced over 1 million citizens to hand over their biometric data, so not just their name and address, biometric data in one of the most extreme pushes for digital ID. Kuwait introduced a national electronic ID, EID, that they say will assist with identification, verification, digital signatures, e-government access, and the secure exchange of data. The deadline to file for this mandatory program was September 30, and the consequences for failing to comply were swift. On October the 1st, okay, so the next day, the Ministry of Interior announced that those who failed to submit their data would be prohibited from all electronic services such as withdrawals, transfers, and account transfers. One cannot even withdraw cash. Around 35,000 people have been blocked out of their bank accounts and are unable to even view the balance. A few weeks later, those in non-compliance had their electronic bank cards deactivated. Visa, MasterCard and KNet all abided by the government's rule. Okay, so again, please, so important. At every opportunity, every single thing you hear, every single push you see for a digital ID in any shape or form, and I will cover some more of those on some future videos. I just didn't want tonight's to go too long. Please make sure you reject that you take a stand against it, because that is how simple they can just block you out of your accounts and you basically cannot exist any longer. So let's make sure we all stand our ground against director ID, digital ID, you know, the cashless agenda, all of it. So important. All right, now I mentioned the fact checkers before, and I'm sure they'll be jumping on this video as well, so do share it around as far and wide as quickly as you can, and do keep this in mind. Is it or is it not a conspiracy how fact checkers didn't exist until the truth started coming out? We never heard of fact checkers 5-6 years ago, but all of a sudden COVID and all the things that came, subsequent to COVID, and the fact checkers are everywhere, left, right and centre. Yes. Now, I mean, again, I'm not saying this. I'm just showing you what the meme says. And this is apparently what some people are saying. So the fact checkers can leave me alone and talk to these people instead. But as it says, people driving these vehicles now refer to them as jab cabs, booster cruisers, or vaxi taxis. Start connecting the dots. Yes. And this one will definitely help you connect the dots. Okay. All right, it is very, very clear. Okay, so I'll spell it out for you. Big Pharma pays doctors. Big Pharma pays researchers. Big Pharma pays politicians. Big Pharma pays the FDA. Big Pharma pays med schools. Big Pharma pays lawyers. Big Pharma pays lobbyists. Big Pharma pays the media. Big Pharma pays celebrities. Big Pharma pays big tech. Not trusting an industry that is financially dependent on you being sick does not make you a conspiracy theorist, but actually shows critical thinking skills. Okay, so please keep that in mind and share that concept and that idea around as far and as wide as you can. And finally, I think this last one really does sum up pretty much everything that I've said over the course of tonight's video. Okay. All of those tinfoil hats have now turned into crowns of knowledge. So I certainly hope, especially those of you who have been with us for a number of years now watching these videos, do feel like you've gained a lot of knowledge and gained a lot of experience from these videos, and that they have helped you in various ways. So I am going to leave things there for tonight. As always, I do urge you to make use of all of the various resources that are available to you to please get informed, get fired up, and get proactive. We really need people taking action to push back against all this insanity and against all of these agendas. All of these videos, of course, are completely free to watch. You'll find them on our BitChute channel, on our YouTube channel, and of course under the videos tab on our Facebook page. There's also plenty of free information on our website, on the other websites that we recommend, and as always, you'll find links in the description. Our radio shows, again, are completely free to listen to. Just a heads up, there's no live radio show next Tuesday because, of course, of the Cup Day holiday here in Melbourne. But the following week, which is the 12th of November, will be our very special 400th birthday show. So do make sure you tune in live for that. Of course, if you missed any of our shows and you want to have a listen to those shows with all the music edited out, all the show notes, the transcripts, you can join up as a podcast member for less than $5 a week. So very, very affordable for everybody. If you want to go above and beyond that, then we do, of course, recommend our Know Your Rights book, which is the essential step-by-step manual for understanding and exercising your rights. That Aussie Speeding Fines book for challenging all manner of unjust and unlawful fines. And, of course, that Bank Secrets Revealed book. Please stop throwing good money after bad at these unsecured loans, your credit cards, your personal loans. They can be very easily discharged or written off using their tried, tested and proven 4-step process. You can get these individually. You'll find links in the description. You can get them all together, of course, as part of the combo pack. You do get that tote bag included as a bonus, no extra charge. Don't forget, we do have our caps and beanies. I believe some warmer weather is starting to come in a number of states now, so grab your caps and beanies. People see the logo, they come up, they have a chat. Great way to meet like-minded people. Don't forget, of course, we do also have the one-on-one coaching sessions available again. If you just go to our shop page, you'll find those. You can book those if you need a little bit of extra assistance with various questions. We can help you out with those. And, of course, our final point is our live events are finished for the year now. So if you do want to access all the information we cover at those live events, please make sure you grab our home study course. It is a complete recording of one of those 2.5-day events. There's 17 DVDs, CD with all the documents that we actually use ourselves, 3 custom-made workbooks, and there's sections there that you can write notes next to every single slide from every single presentation. pause, rewind, fast forward in the comfort of your own home at your own pace, and is a fantastic resource that you'll come back to again and again and again over the years. So you'll find a link in the description for that as well. So I'm going to leave things there for those of you who are in Victoria and might be stretching out the long weekend and taking Monday off. I hope you all have a wonderful break and a wonderful long weekend. We will be, of course, back on Thursday night for the next live video update. Until then, take care, everyone.